Welcome to another episode of You Left Shit Out, but the theme is CJ at night. Don't typically go live this late, and I'm saying late for East Coast because it's not late on the West Coast. This is not even dinner time on the West Coast, but welcome to those drive-by people. That's just people that not necessarily watch RBN, and that's Revolutionary Blackout Network, but just happened to stumble upon the topic and like the topic and hear it. Welcome to those people. Welcome to the comrades and the community members of RBN. CJ at night, going over a couple of stories, and it's so funny. This is a banner I had in a couple of episodes, and I was going here right now to change these out, and this is actually gonna stay here, and this is another one that's gonna stay here. Stop Cop City. So we'll be getting to those in just a second. Let's put up the graphic so we can go over what we're gonna be talking about today. So unique story. Let me tell you what happened today. So I put in an order for a graphic with Aaron, who's our editor, our graphic person too. We need to come up with another name for what she does. And I said, I described this, and then I said, can you also make a graphic describing this? And she made two separate ones, which is what I was thinking. But then she reread what I said and then had the understanding that what she thought I meant was to put them together. I was like, oh, I can use all three of these. So I like them all. So the lead topic, Cop City, a police training facility that is known as Cop City in Atlanta, Georgia, has protests going on and is on fire, literally, or at least a police car was set on fire. So we'll be talking about what's going on in Cop City, the murder of the protest that kind of led to this uprising that's happening. So yeah, we'll go over some footage of that. The other title story, we're gonna cover. I don't know if it's the second part or the middle part of the Vanguard interview with Kulinski. We covered it a couple of days ago, maybe 3 days ago, maybe longer, 4 days ago. Anyway, we covered it, and we were only able to get to like 20 some odd minutes. So I said that I would do a part two. So I'll see if I'll squeeze that in. We'll do a part two of that, where the first part was more of foreign policy. Then he kind of goes into just leftism, lefty Democrat kind of stuff. So that's also part of the cover story. Now, what's not on the cover but still in the title, and that is AOC was confronted by a protester, and this time it was an immigration protester. And I feel like this hasn't gotten as much play or notoriety, or hasn't grown as fast, is because the protester is speaking Spanish. But the video we have is translated, but the protester is speaking Spanish, and that's the reason why I think it hasn't gotten the play. But it's the same thing. The person interrupts her about Ukraine and why isn't the items are being used, what's happening with immigration. So there's that story. And then we have the latest on the U.S.-backed coup regime in Peru and some of their repressive. My wife's over here dancing. Some of their repressive police tactics that's going on, ordered by not even of the elected president. And then there was a shooting out here in LA, Monterey Park to be specific, and we'll cover that. 10 people murdered during a holiday celebration for the community in Monterey Park. So we'll get to that also. So let's actually start with the announcements, and then we'll get to some comments really quick before we jump into the story. Now, don't forget tomorrow, Nick and CJ will be returning tomorrow. So Mondays is usually when we have a lot to cover. So, like I said before, I've made this. Here's the first announcement. If you have any topic ideas, you can email them to us, but they must be attached with an article. So there has to be a link to an article or a video article. It could be a video to, where the video is the article. I guess that works, but so that we're able to research it. But anyway, so you can email us that. We received a couple already. Second thing to let everybody know, we have our website up, revolutionaryblack.com or revolutionaryblackoutnetwork.com is the full name. I can put it in the screen and then we can come back to this. So here's the website. You can click on it or go to it and look at our latest clip. So will be there, a mission statement, different things, email address, same one I just gave out, and then our outreach one. So yeah, you can look at summit chapter information, what our goals are for our local chapter. So that's something you can check out on our website. And I'll go back to Twitter now. What was up here? Video. I want to make sure it doesn't play any sound here. I shouldn't. Oh, just found that. And it was called the Peruvian Resistance. The Peruvians resistance forces armed police to run. So they're just showing the resistance there. And I thought with that music, I couldn't resist to use it as the intro. Just to start out a little different today. So let's continue with the announcements. As people roll in, make sure you're liking the stream. Get as many people as we can in here before we get into some of the topics. I think we're going to start with the short story, the AOC, because it's a shorter story. So we'll start with that. AOC will be AOC confronted. And I saw this tweeted out by Jose Vega, who we had on our show when he was the one who was protesting AOC. He was the one that was like, there's not gonna be something if there's a nuclear war or something. So yeah, the AOC story, AOC confronted, will be the first story we go through. Let's continue with I think we've hit 20. This is an old number, so let's update that. Sorry about that. Well, yeah, that was me. So 29,900. So we're 100 away from our goal that we had in 2022. Thank you for those that has been, promoting us, sharing us, liking our stream, because we are being severely suppressed. So the success we are having are only based on the backs of or based off all of you. So yeah, 29,900. Join our Substack. We sent out the Discord link. So if you're watching, check your email. If it's not there, check your junk mail. But the Discord link was sent out today. It'll be good until tomorrow around 2 p.m. Eastern. So join our Substack if you want the Discord link, or if you just want notifications when we go live, like this unannounced stream today that I'm going live. Just thought that the stories were piling up and we couldn't get to all of them. So I'm like, let me take care of some couple of stories tonight. And then last, certainly not least, let's make sure we are liking the stream. let's see if we can target 150 likes first. We'll start there, and then I'll go to comments before we get started in the topics here. So, well, we're at 115 likes, so we're not too far away. We're at 115, so let's get to 100 and what did I say? 50, 150. But let's go to comments and see what everybody's saying before we get started here. And let's see. Hang on, it takes a little second to update. Would be cool to see RBN and Bad in Panetta, or Renegade cut. Zoya is love. What's up, Zoya? Comment about Vanguard. I won't put that up, but Revolutionaries Unite. I'm loving seeing what's happening in France. Their protests that's going on. I guess I'll take this off the screen. It might be distracting for some people. So let's go here. We'll pull up the AOC video and just have it in the back as we go through a couple of the comments here. So let's do that. Okay. And it's a lot of stuff to cover for that story. Monterey Park, it is a lot that's going on. A lot has happened to get everybody caught up to date. So yeah, let's get to the AOC video. I thought I had it here. Do I have it here? Oh, here it goes. All right, so we'll have it here. Like I said, Jose Vega is where who tweeted it out. Let me pause it. Okay, because we're not ready for it yet. Still reading some comments. Let's continue. A united people can never be defeated. Check out some Utah Phillips on YouTube. We sings folk songs about the Wobblies, the real Mother Joan unions. Is extremely educational and informative. Thank you, Joe. John, hello all. This light is glaring at nighttime, and that natural light is not coming in. That's for our future segment. That's the celebration that was going on, or this is the celebration. Happy Lunar New Year. Thank you, Sean. The Monterey shooting, it was like a festival, and we will show you I'm going to show you a video where it's a festival like an hour before all of that happened. How different that is, but I'll say it then. Happy Chinese New Year. Yes, it is. Thank you for this super chat or super sticker, James. Good name. I have that name too. Man, that is some beautiful footage. Yeah, I did like that opening. Love the mixing. Yeah. Like I said, I DJ'd at a gentleman's club for a few years and got a real sense of music. But always had a sense of music. Dad was into music, different things. Always was into different groups, like rock groups and R&B and oldies and jazz. Listening to jazz as a young person, it seems weird to people. So, it's almost 8:30 here. Yes, so now it's 8:40. So it's been 10 minutes since you put that one up. It's bedtime for Feinstein and Pelosi. Got comedians here. Love everybody here. Hand pink waving CJ, the educator. All power to the people and RBN. James, thanks. That's James again, back with another comment. I read the comment before I actually read the name. Sup, RBN family. All right, so maybe one more, and then... Hey, CJ from Dallas. I have most of my family lives in Texas, not Dallas, but Houston's mainly. My wife's family. My wife actually has family in Texas too. They just recently moved. Austin. Wait. Oh, yeah, Austin and Houston also. So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Anyway, so let's get into the topic now. We are at 200 people watching. So thank you for liking. We're getting us to 150 likes. We're going to start with this topic just to get the blood flowing, get the energy going here. This one, and this is Jose Vega, and it says, today, AOC's town hall, and the protester is Lucy. I thought she had her last name, I was going to say. But I know this is Lucy. So this is Lucy, and for those of you on Twitter, you know her as Blue Moon. She was on, I forget which summit, but she's been on a couple of summits. She's been on RBN here and there. So stood up and called out AOC on her funding towards Ukraine, the lack of action from Democrats, and the need for an independent movement from the establishment. So let's listen to Blue Moon confront AOC. And I'm going to take this down so we can read the subtitles, because she's talking in Spanish, but there's subtitles, and maybe I'll read over it.
Años que no hacen una ley de amnistía. ¿Una qué? Una ley de amnistía.
Okay, so let's go back. AOC. She say, what? This is AOC speaking, because I guess she calls AOC, and now AOC says, what? So she's listening.
Una ley de amnistía.
An amnesty law. It's been 40 years.
Una ley de migración hace 40 años. No.
Somebody else is saying it's time to go.
No, necesito hablar. Necesito escucharme.
No, I need to talk. I need to talk. I need to be heard. I came all this way to ask questions.
Yo vine para hacer una pregunta. Señora, yo vine para hacer una pregunta.
So, it sounds like she's letting her talk. She's allowing her to speak.
Hace 40 años que no hay.
It's been 40 years since the last amnesty law in this country.
Hay una ley de amnistía en este país. Okay, todavía.
Okay, still no amnesty law in this country.
No hay una ley de amnistía en este país. Y el Partido Demócrata mandó 100 millones de dólares a nazis en Ucrania.
Excuse me. I read that wrong here. Let me go back. Yet the Democratic Party sends $100 billion to Nazis.
A nazis en Ucrania. Que esta señora votó para eso.
This is the woman who voted to send. This woman voted to send money to.
Votó para eso. En este país.
We need a third party in the style of AMLO, and that's the president of Mexico. Now, let me pause it here for a second, because if this is a coordinated attempt, and it sounds like it is, if Jose, who did one of these same things, sort of same confronting AOC, and he's saying this is his friend, this is very smart, because they're doing it in another language. They're doing it in Spanish. And she's bringing up the issues that could be, or I would assume is important to the people in this community. Amnesty. And then connecting that to sending money to Ukraine. it's really a very smart tactic if that's intentional. If it's not, I guess this is an unintentional consequence, but this is very good. Now, we don't have, Lucy is Argentinian. What's up, Colin? Lucy is Argentinian. So that's Colin. Just giving us a little more detail of Lucy. But this is a very great strategy to have, because it's like the protest that was in English, like it's a whole lot of the community that didn't reach. And just like this protest didn't reach a lot of the English-speaking community, this is going to reach that community of Spanish speakers. AOC confronted, speaking in Spanish. Great idea. Great idea. Let's take down the banner so we can show this. We need a third party in the style of AMLO. And that's another. I'm assuming Lucy's a very intelligent person. I'm assuming that is strategically placed to say AMLO, not just say third party for working people. If this is a Spanish-speaking community, AMLO that's gonna be somebody that they know. Oh, AMLO, yeah, he is kind of progressive. Yeah, we do need a third party. You see, if this is the point, or if this part of the strategy, this is a great strategy in my opinion. Let's continue.
Necesitamos un tercer partido al estilo de AMLO en México y Petro
in Mexico, of Petro in Colombia, and I think that's Boric in Chile. So she's naming the other leaders, third parties in the sort of essence of these other leaders of the global South, like the win that just happened in Colombia, Chile, we already know, and AMLO she mentioned in Mexico. So let's continue.
Colombia y Boric en Chile. El Partido Demócrata no está haciendo.
The Democratic Party does nothing for us.
Nada por nosotros. Nosotros nos estamos.
I am registering people for an independent party. I will be outside.
Registrando independiente, porque el Partido Demócrata no hace nada por nosotros.
AOC says, I'm sorry.
No, señora, no. Necesito.
She's like, no, don't give me that shit. No, don't tell me that. Just some sorry, some the thoughts and prayers bullshit they try to give. Let's listen. No, lady, no. I will be registering people as independents. I will be outside.
Yo voy a estar afuera registrando a la gente independiente.
Why does she gotta leave?
Necesito hacer una
She's
pregunta.
addressing
No, lady, I will. Oh, that's the same.
her government for redress of grievance.
No.
She's
Civility politics. That grievance, if you follow rules, that grievance she just said is never heard. They give no avenues that actually produce results. The civil way. There are no civil lanes that produce results that would address what Lucy is talking about here. But they constantly say rules, stay in the lane, be quiet. Don't raise your voice. Good for Lucy calling out AOC. Absolutely. Now let's look at some of what people said in the comments here. Actually, there's still like 18 seconds. I don't know what it can be, but let's see.
Oh,
Brenda Leon, Alvaro Ortiz Vasquez, as well as translation services by Kara Camacho and Wendy Moore.
So okay, so there's no more protests, and let's look and kind of dive in. This is earlier in the town hall. Okay, so this is the La Roche movement protest on seal. Is this also in Spanish? I think this is also in Spanish. Also, is this in Spanish? Hold on. Thought I hit it. All right, let's listen and see if this is. Oh, it's a different kind of protest where they're singing. I wonder how. I mean, this has to be for the squad and AOC. And we'll go to some comments. It looks like some RBN members made some comments. So let's look and see what they said. But it's gotta be for like AOC, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Elizabeth Warren. It has to be jarring for them to have this. I know they put on a public face that this doesn't bother them, but to hear people are protesting that they're the ones funding war and they're supposed to be left. Like that has to have like a I can't sleep at night effect. At least a couple of nights. I mean, if you just tell me a protest happens like the one that Jose did a while back, and then you just go to bed like normal, that would seem a bit. I don't want to use. Yeah, I won't use the word. But yeah, that would seem a bit much. So Nick says Lucy is too powerful, and I will retweet that. And here's another. Here's a friend of the show, Professor Anthony Z. She really is, and he was replying to Nick, and I think let me go back out one more. I think Sabby also said something. Lucy for the win. Not Sabby. At the turnaround, looks like a Joey B or Hillary C event. Looks like the whole crowd is hostile to the fake. Oh, here goes Lucy right here. So this is her who actually, this is Lucy Blue Moon. And she's putting up here, it doesn't have a caption. I do not want to enroll in any political party, no party. So she was just showing her party affiliation. It looks like registration. So yeah. No comments from Lucy there. So I think that's all I have to say. I'm going to toss up some of your comments to close out this segment to got us warm up. It got us kind of warmed up. And we're going to get into, hang on a second here. Let me just read. We're going to get into Cop City, and then Vanguard. So Cop City first, then Vanguard. Let's get to the thumbnail topics, and we'll do Cop City first. I already have Twitter up because there's a lot of footage on Twitter of just some of the things that has happened. Let me actually go to my notes. I made these notes, so let me follow them. Let's put this one up. I'm going to actually start with a YouTube video. And I am in this screen, I think. I'm going to start with a YouTube video. And let's take this banner down, and we will put up the next one. Now, we just did a stream, a segment, I think it was yesterday, on the killing that precipitated this. And it hasn't even been posted. It's likely to be even that clip, which was recorded yesterday, would likely even post tomorrow. And then we'll probably maybe post this one also tomorrow. We shall see. But let's look at a local news reporting on who is paying for Atlanta's Cop City. That's what we're going to start with. But I'm first going to throw up your comments if you have any about the last segment here. Oh no. Mission accomplished, Captain. Somebody saying the Captain, obvious, I guess. In a system of universal communism, there is no need for political parties. Abolish all political parties. And that is true. Thank you, Chip Walters. Let me make sure there's none of those. Okay. All right. So good. All right. So now let's switch gears and move to this next segment. Like I said, the AOC segment was a quick segment. This one is Cop City is on fire, and literally in sort of the emotions of the city, you can almost feel through some of the footage that we're going to be covering here. And we're going to start with this corporate media news clip where they're reporting on who is paying for Atlanta's Cop City.
And folks, you've heard a lot about who wants to stop the plan to build this massive training facility, but who supports it and who's going to pick up the tab?
Our investigative team is following the money tonight to get you answers. Faith Jesse joining us now. Faith, what did you find out here?
Well, guys, according to property records, the city of Atlanta now owns the sprawling DeKalb County location, but taxpayers are only expected to foot about 1/3 of the estimated $90 million price tag. That means the nonprofit Atlanta Police Foundation is working to raise millions for construction. So here's the question. Where do they get the funding? The organization says private sector companies fund its projects. And we looked at the tax filings, which shows 80% of the money.
Look at all the capitalists that wants these police to be trained in urban warfare. I mean, to me, that's amazing. What does Delta Airlines need to invest in urban warfare for? What does Equifax have to invest in urban warfare for? Waffle House? I mean, UPS? What is UPS? Delivering packages? You need urban warfare? And Home Depot? Like, again, like, why do these companies want to invest in what they want to call a training facility, but it's training for urban warfare? And then having the people pay for, I think she said, 1/3 of it. Yeah, I mean, what is the Waffle House there for? What is going on? And let me see. If I can find the tweet here. Actually, let's stay with the because there's a tweet by Kamal Black Power Media where he has this list. I want to know if it's a little more on there, because it felt like he had a couple of more names on the list that he had. So we're gonna go to that after this clip here.
Comes from private donations. Its board filled with executives from nearly all of Atlanta's big name companies. Let's take a look at some of them. Waffle House, you see Equifax, Wells Fargo, the Home Depot, Delta, just to name a few. It reads like a who's who of corporate Atlanta, right? Public tax records do lag behind, so it's not yet clear exactly how much money is coming into the foundation from these companies for this project. But here's what we can tell you. We can tell you that in 2020, the organization had more than $24 million in assets and liabilities. So this is what we do know right now. We're continuing to follow the money for you, digging through the documents to find out just how much these major companies are contributing to this project.
All right, Faith, thank you so much.
All right, so let's go to the next one. That kind of gives us a little background on who's funding it. We're going to go back to Twitter for this next one. And the next one, is this a clip? Yeah, this is a clip. So now a lot of the segment is assuming you know what happened, the murder of the protester, the climate protester who was murdered, what precipitated this. So the climate protester was murdered. Now there's this precipitated an uprising. And then from this uprising, people protesting the killing and the murder by police of this climate protester. 6 people were arrested after a peaceful protest over a proposed police training ground turned violent in Atlanta, police said. You notice the police said part? Why don't they get what somebody else says? Also, why don't they go to witnesses and report witnesses, do reporting, But let's listen, or let's watch this video that they put out here. Police vehicle set on fire in downtown Atlanta. And there's more footage we're going to show of this. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. So again, this is actually the Peruvian protest. That's not the Cop City, but Cop City protest is looks similar. So let's get to that. There's a lot going on, man. I just can't believe what's happening in Peru, what's happening in France. Just a lot to cover. So here we are, a little more footage of the burning cop car. So let's play it. I don't know if it's sound. Oh, there we go. Anytime I move it backwards, it does that. I don't know if it's sound or just, you can hear the crackling of something, but I don't think there's a person talking. It looked like almost a news clip. I don't think there's a person talking here, but we shall see. All right, we have to scroll down again. That's the Peruvian story, which was wow, what's happening in Peru is just amazing. So, all right, so here's the video, and we shall play it. It should be fine now. Yeah.
Burning cop car. Got police with rifles. Police with AR style rifles.
So it looped again. So that was pretty good footage of some of what was going on with at least the police car. Let's see. Forest defenders marching to the park after blocking traffic at Moreland Avenue at Euclid. They continue to chant "Stop Cop City." Some of the group continues to throw bird shooters in the middle of the road, impacting traffic. So this is just a little footage of the protesting here. Man, here it says protesters have started chanting to shut down Cop City. About 100 demonstrators are out, and several of them tell me they don't want money spent on another police training facility, but instead for social services programs and the homeless. Now you the video we watched, the corporate news video, was also 11 Alive News, which is in Atlanta. This reporter evidently is a reporter for them, Emmy-winning, news reporter. This is Dawn White who's putting this video out. So let's listen. Let's see if it'll play. If I do this.
Police. No killer. Police. No justice. No peace. Racist. Police. No killer. Police. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. Stop Cop City. Stop Cop City. Stop Cop City.
Oh, I guess that was it. And then there's also footage of, and it says, let me read the caption. Cop City protesters are throwing rocks at Atlanta Police Foundation building, which is the police department in downtown Atlanta. Is that the police department or police? Maybe it is. They also set off fireworks and spray painted the building. So let's listen to this footage. Crowd's getting louder. Okay. There's a lot of these little clips where I'm showing just to get a full understanding. This looks like the other side of that same cop car that we saw on one side. So, cop car torched and police foundation building attacked in Atlanta tonight. In revenge for the murder of young forest defender by armed police this week. This is only the beginning. Time to stop police violence. Time to stop Cop City. And let's let it loop and then we'll play it here.
An Atlanta police vehicle is on fire. Yeah, we should back up. Back up, everybody. Or those shots are from the car. That is actually kind of dangerous. An Atlanta police vehicle is on fire. Yeah, we should back up. Back up, everybody. Or those shots are from the car.
Oh.
That's actually kind of dangerous.
Okay. Let's also go now. When the protester, the climate protester was shot, 7 other people were charged during that time, and we read this article in that story, but I just wanted to, for those that may not have seen that segment in that other stream where we covered this article, you can go check that out. But just to tell you, 7 other people were charged with terrorism charges, not just trespassing, but terrorism charges, and I can't remember the exact name or name of the charge, but yes. And let's now keep moving here. Cop City. All right, so now let's go to my notes here. So the next thing is a print article I have here that I want to bring up. And this one is corporate media. I don't know how to get rid of this thing, or do I just go up? All right, so there we go. All right, so there we go. All right, and the headline is charges announced for those arrested in protests over controversial Cop City and fatal police shooting of activists. Police have released the charges for the 6 people who were arrested Sunday evening in downtown Atlanta, authorities said, during protests that came in response to a proposed police training facility and the fatal shooting of an activist earlier in the week. And they just talk about some of the charges here. But let's read this part. The protests came in response to a planned 90 million, 85-acre law enforcement training facility dubbed Cop City by its opponents, and just days after the police killing of 26-year-old activist Manuel Esteban, I'm just going to say Manuel Esteban Paz Terran, near the site of the training camp. And Manuel, 26 years old, murdered. And then tried to say he shot up, they were shot up on first. But anyway, this is CNN on that article. Now I want to bring up an independent news source here where they can give a lot more detail about actually what happened with the murder of Manuel. And this one is titled Rally in Solidarity with Fight to Stop Cop City Spread After Police Murder Forest Defender. And where am I? Wait a minute here. Sorry, it's popped me down quickly. All right, so right here is where I need to start. All right, so here we go. Across the U.S., people held vigils to mourn the police murder of forest defender Manuel Terran, it could be, 26, also known as Turgita, on Wednesday, January 18th. That was 4 days ago. And to rally in solidarity with the struggle against the destruction of the Huiline forest and the construction of the counterinsurgents training facility known as Cop City, as Unicorn Riot wrote. And listen to this. A protester was shot and killed by police Wednesday morning in the midst of a multi-jurisdictional raid on the Atlanta forest, also known as the Weelaunee Forest in DeKalb County, southeast of Atlanta. The identity of the protester is currently unknown. We've already mentioned his name. A Georgia state trooper was reportedly also shot during the raid and is currently undergoing surgery at Grady Memorial Hospital, according to police source. According to police, this is all according to police so far. So, at least 3 other protesters were reportedly arrested during the raid and were charged with aggravated assault on a police safety officer and domestic terrorism. A forest defender who was present during the raid and spoke with Unicorn Riot under conditions of anonymity reported hearing 10 to 12 gunshots all at once, followed by a loud boom. The GBI, or Georgia Bureau of Investigation, which is leading the investigation into the incident, said that the killing occurred after police were fired on by the protesters. Protesters, this is an independent source. Protesters, however, have questioned this narrative, quote, calling on legal observers and journalists, end quote, to launch an independent investigation of the incident. Quote, since January 6, 2022, activists and community members fighting to defend the Atlanta forest and stop Cop City have been demanding that officers stop bringing weapons into the forest after APD pointed their weapons at a peaceful protester, said the Atlanta Community Press Collective in a press release. And here is that press release. Atlanta Community Press Collective. Recap of the day: multi-agency raid of the Weelaunee Forest. Police murdered a forest defender. Continued raid as though nothing happened. Police story changes throughout the day. Contradicts account from neighbors of the forest and forest defenders. Huge vigil takes to the streets. Activists with the Defend the Atlanta Forest have a forest effort have challenged the official account and argue that no activists fire upon officers. The Atlanta Solidarity Fund, an organization providing legal support to activists, said it was planning to pursue a vigorous legal strategy to examine the circumstances surrounding the protesters' death. Quote, we are committed to finding out what actually happened, end quote, said Marlon Kuntz, an organizer with the Solidarity Fund. Critics said the Cop City project would disrupt and expand of green space and disrupt the community, or disturb and expand of green space and disturb the community around it. Quote, people don't want gunfire and bomb detonations to be the soundtrack of their neighborhoods. Bentley Huggins, a local organizer who lives nearby, said while attending a vigil for the protester on Wednesday. And we can pause there. And I'm going to go back to Twitter and show you a couple of more videos and then finish out with this article. It's astonishing. All police have to say is, oh, they shot, and that's it. Oh, they shot, and that's it. How could, I mean, do we put it past police killing this person and then being shot by friendly fire and blaming it on the protesters? For me, with law enforcement, they have to prove that they're innocent first. It's not innocent until proven guilty. They have proven to be bad actors, stomping for the ruling class, and just cannot be trusted in any way. And so these news clippings and news reportings where they're just like, and reported by police, or as said, or as stated by police, or according to police, like, these aren't the people. We shouldn't be quoting the criminals, and that's who the police are. They are the actual criminals. I don't think anybody is sending me anything for this stream. Yeah, no. Nobody's sending me anything for the stream. So I think we're gonna not stop it there. Hang on a second here. Instead of this YouTube clip, let's go to this article, because I do want to. We did the corporate media, independent media. Now let's answer the question: why Atlanta's are pushing to stop Cop City. This one is by The Appeal. This is an article, and I think this might be the last part that we're going to cover for this segment here, and then we're going to move. What did I say was next? Vanguard Kyle interview. So this one comes from theappeal.org. And it says, why Atlantans are pushing to stop Cop City. And we're going to end on this article for this segment, at least. After the city council passed the ground. Oh, sorry, hang on. Let's continue. After the city council passed the ground lease for massive police facility known as Cop City, local opposition hasn't ceased. It's evolved. This story was produced in partnership with the Mainline, an independent women-led magazine based in Atlanta. On September 8th, the Atlanta City Council gathered after listening to nearly 17 hours of comments from over 1,100 constituents across the city. The flood of messages concerned one thing: a proposed $90 million police militarized training facility known among locals as Cop City. The rendering of the facility include a mock city for officers to train in, as well as a helicopter landing pad, new shooting range, burn tower sites, and more. Its development is being spearheaded by the Atlanta Police Foundation, and 2/3 of the funding comes from philanthropic and corporate donors, kicking the remaining of the bill to the public. So the public has to pay for something they don't even want. And that's going to be repressive to them. The project supporters, who include Mayor Keisha Lance Bottom, Democrat, and Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, Republican, there's that bipartisanship, have described the facility as a vital tool for improving police morale and fighting crime. Increase their morale. Police morale needs to be boosted. That's why we're going to tear down the forest. Yet, about 70% of the people calling in expressed their opposition to Cop City. Beyond the basic objection to such a major expansion of the city's policing footprint, environmentalists are also up in arms since the site's proposed location lies within the South River Forest, which is the Atlanta area's largest remaining green space, and scientists say one of the city's greatest defenses against worsening climate change. The land also carries a dark history. Originally inhabited by the Creek tribe or Muscogee tribe, Creek tribe, before their forced removal in the early 19th century, the land became part of a complex of farms that included a slave plantation and federal prison labor site. The area slated to be Cop City was eventually sold to the city of Atlanta, which used it for forced agricultural labor by incarcerated people from 1920 to the late 1800s, to the late 1980s. I'm sorry. Bottoms has said, that's the mayor, that the city, quote, didn't have anything else to choose from in terms of a site. None of these things deterred the city council, nor did the 17 hours of comment. After brief deliberation, the council passed legislation to authorize the ground lease of the forested land to the Atlanta Police Foundation in a 10-4 vote. The legislation leased 381 acres of the land to the foundation for $10 a year. $10 a year. But there is still a chance that Cop City could be stopped. And people who flooded the city council meeting with their opposition have vowed to make sure that it is. The Cop City vote was the culmination of a process that has seen Atlanta's political establishment, often with the support of the city's corporate media, relentlessly determined to give Atlanta police what they want. This stance is nothing new. George Floyd's murder in Minneapolis, along with the police killings of Rayshard Brooks last June, ignited historic protests in Atlanta. But the city's government has firmly stood in the way of any significant police reform. When the protests began, mass arrests took place throughout the city, along with numerous incidents of police brutality, such as that towards college students Messiah Young and Tania Pilgrim. The Atlanta police force paid bonuses to city cops after some stage a sick-out after Officer Garrett Roloff was charged with a felony murder and Brooks killing. Officer Devin Bronson was charged with aggravated assault after video showed that he kicked Brooks while he was on the ground after being shot. A city council member later pushed for additional bonuses to come from the city budget. The city council killed one reform bill at the behest of Bottoms, who then vetoed separate compromise reform bill. Officers who were publicly charged in Young's, Pilgrim's, and Brooks's case have since been hired back on the force and given back pay. The Atlantic Police Department budget is now slated at $230 million, a roughly 7% increase from the previous year. Now the city government is working directly with the Police Foundation to develop its new state-of-the-art police militarization facility. Just astonishing. All right, so that is Cop City on fire, and the people don't want it. They came out and expressed that, and the city council voted anyway. Like it doesn't matter. That's our democracy, right? Like it doesn't matter what they want. Now we're going to go to the Vanguard and Kyle Kulinski interview, part 2.
Completely agree with your response. Yeah, I totally agree.
So let's pause, let's pause it here. And we're going to go ahead and move to this next segment, but I will put up a couple of your comments because it looks like we got quite a bit. So this is Vanguard and Kyle, part 2. So that's what we're going to be covering today. Let's make this a little bigger. But before we get started, let's do a couple of things. Let's shout out some announcements. Don't forget, tomorrow, Nick and CJ show will be back. Took some days off, and Mondays is usually the show. We have a lot to cover, so make sure you stay tuned, or make sure you check in with us on tomorrow, the Nick and CJ show. And let's check out our likes. We're at 273 likes. Let's see if we can push to 325. We have several people here that have not liked the stream. Welcome to those just joining us. Let's like the stream, get some more people in for this segment here. This segment, it's gonna be, I mean, it's on the funny side. It's talking about progressive politics, leftist stuff, leftist, not necessarily infighting, but just, you know, talking about things of that nature. So that's this upcoming segment. So let's like the stream. Let's try to get to 375. If you want to get notifications of unannounced streams or unscheduled streams like this one, join our Substack. You will also be sent the link to our Discord. And then scrolling at the bottom is our Patreon. If you're able to contribute and like our content enough that you want to contribute, you know, $3 a month, $5 a month. Our Patreon link or URL is scrolling down at the bottom there. You can join our Patreon, and you also get the link that way. We send it to our Patreon members also. The other thing is we are at 29,900, and remember the goal in 2022 was to reach 30,000 by the end of the year. Now it might be a couple of months after, a month or so after, but still I'll take it to hit 30,000, and we're at 29,900. Let's look and see what people are saying before we get back to the next topic. I thought I saw. Let's see. CJ, Kyle is washed up. Does he even have a following anymore? Towards the end of this video, he makes mention of something about reference of his sub count. And what he says about it, he seems uneasy about it. Here goes Zoya. Tune in next Sunday to JB Show. We're going to show evidence of the U.S. war crimes straight from the people who committed them. By now, who committed them, but now are veterans for peace. So that's Zoya, always helping out RBN. So thank you, Zoya. Let's see who else here. Let's read this one. In my hometown of Rockford, Illinois, I had a friend named Joe who went downtown at night on his bike and with a spoon transplanted Marbury saplings all around the police station jail foundation. So you're from Atlanta? Or no, I'm sorry, you said Illinois. That happened in Illinois. All right, so I think that might be enough comments, a lot of talking back and forth. Let's get into this one. Let's get into this topic here. Let me make sure I have it in the right spot. I think this is the right one. Let's close that one. Right? Yeah. Yeah, let me go back just a little bit because I thought I had it set at a question, but let's see. Let's go back right about here.
Right tone. I did that as good as I possibly could. None of it was pre-planned out. It's all just, however I react in the moment while trying to lay out the argument in the video. And look, I think I did a great job about it. And for people, because this is a criticism that I've seen of me previously too, and Pacman has even a couple of times.
Okay, so it is a little further back here.
You've done a great job on there arguing the left-wing position and engaging with Joe. But a lot of people are wondering about this recent endorsement.
Okay, here we go. The question did start with Joe Rogan.
what's relevant. Just like with MSNBC, you know, they tried to pivot towards this whole like we're serious news now before Trump, and then Trump.
So it's coming up.
And it's like, well, throw that out the window. Now we're going to be
so where we're starting in where we left off with this conversation. Most of it had to do with foreign policy or Ukraine or something along those lines, and now they're going to move into more left media space or just media space, and then leftism or being a lefty. And then progressives and strategy and that type of thing. So that's what this part 2 will be about. Let's get into it.
Become the Trump derangement syndrome network, and you talk about that all day long at the expense of anything else that's important. So yeah, it's definitely a real phenomena, and it does affect independent media as well as mainstream media, although maybe, you know, to a less odious degree perhaps. But another question I had for you, Kyle, that I know a lot of people also have for you is about Joe Rogan, who's of course one of your friends and someone whose show you've been on multiple times. And by the way, I think you've done a great job on there arguing the left-wing position and engaging with Joe. But a lot of people are wondering about this recent endorsement or, you know, quasi endorsement of Ron DeSantis. We got a super chat here from Colin who asks, why was your response against Joe so tepid when you criticized others a lot harder? So if you would just explain your logic and the way you kind of deal with Rogan and respond to Rogan, I think that might be illuminating for some people.
Well, I just disagree that it was tepid. It wasn't remotely tepid. I gave like the strongest, most ironclad arguments I possibly could against Ron DeSantis in showing that Ron DeSantis is a total fraud. Ron DeSantis is not for legalizing marijuana. Ron DeSantis is not for raising the minimum wage. Ron DeSantis has done a number of things that are anti-free speech. I mean, the guy in that great More Perfect Union video exposing his corruption, and now he's basically a full-on corporate socialist while screwing working people. I was trying to give the most substantive argument I possibly could to show Joe Rogan, hey, this guy is terrible. And even a tepid endorsement of him is sort of inexcusable. And like I did in that video, I mean, I gave Bill Maher endless shit because he went from Bernie Sanders to Amy Klobuchar. So how should I react when somebody goes from Bernie Sanders to fucking Ron DeSantis? I should be annoyed by that. I should be outraged by that. And that's exactly what that video is detailing. Now, probably what this person is referring to is that subconsciously they're mad that my tone wasn't more like, you know, shouty or whatever. And it's like, that it's not necessary to do that. If I'm making the arguments and I'm trying to get through to look.
So this is a class thing here, in my opinion, or how I see this as a class thing, because if you're a person who aren't experiencing any of the things that Ron DeSantis may do, for example, if you're not a person who's experiencing those and not in those marginalized groups, you're not going to have that sort of emotion attached to your points. You're just talking about it in the abstract. So when he says, "Oh, I wasn't," like they mean I need to be shouty. They are, because in their world, that doesn't necessarily like showing your anger doesn't prove nothing to them. When and to people experiencing some of these things, it actually does. This is the reason why some people like Jimmy Dore, because his tone is matching the moment. So let's not poo-poo away that particular point, because the tone has to match the moment. It felt like in 2016, Bernie Sanders' tone matched the moment in 2016. That's why he was such a surprise to the establishment. 2020, not so much. Certainly not now. His tone does not match the moment. Let's continue with the video.
I made that video. It's a hard line to walk, right? Because you have to I wanted to make sure Joe Rogan himself would listen to it and not immediately dismiss it, while also letting my audience know, and the people who follow me already know Ron DeSantis is a piece of shit. Like, hey man, this is serious and Joe is wrong. So you had to walk that line and strike that right tone. And I did that as good as I possibly could. None of it was pre-planned out. It's all just, however I react in the moment while trying to lay out the argument in the video. And look, I think I did a great job about it. And for people, because this is a criticism that I've seen of me previously too, and Pacman has even a couple of times, alluded to the fact like others who have been on Joe Rogan are very hesitant to criticize Joe Rogan. Check my channel and compare it to his channel. Look at the number of videos that I've done where when I disagreed with Joe Rogan.
You notice this is a thing in whose world? He mentioned Pacman. He mentioned Joe Rogan. He mentioned, and then he talking to himself, and then you see the questioners. Proving what is like this is a thing.
Rogan, I did a segment disagreeing with Joe Rogan. I've done it a number of times, and I've done it quite a bit recently. There was one time where I think he said something about UBI, how now he's against UBI. I covered that, and I was like, this is nonsense. And I showed how his Reddit turned on him as well. There's been a number of these. Me and Crystal on Crystal Kyle and Friends, when he came out against, I think it was paid paternity leave, her and I did a segment where we literally showed the fucking graphs and compared the U.S. to other countries and showed just how screwed our working people are versus people over there. And that if Joe cares about working people, look, you got to change your mind on this. And he did change his mind on that, by the way. So not only am I saying the things that are relatively correct, but I actually have the track record of changing his mind on some of these things. Now, look, maybe I don't end up changing his mind on the Ron DeSantis thing. Fine. Then I'll just keep criticizing him and saying, I think you're wrong about this. And that's all that I could do. You know what I'm saying? But I guess I'm a little sensitive to that criticism of like, oh, you're going softer on him or whatever. When it's like,
this is the criticism that he's sensitive about. He's not sensitive about criticism about him being a NATO leftist. But if you talk about, what's important in white male media sphere, white male podcasting, this is let's listen to some more.
What I do is I give people credit where I think they deserve credit, and I disagree with them and explain where they're wrong when I think they're wrong. And that's exactly what I did with Rogan. I've done it in as substantive a way as possible. And if you want me to scream and yell, well, then basically what people are asking is for me to take somebody who already views me as a friend and a trusted source and make it so he doesn't look at me like a friend and a trusted source. And whenever I say anything, it's going to hit a brick wall. No, I want him to listen. I want him to change his mind. He's got the #1 podcast in the world. I mean, that's like, this guy's really powerful. And so it's good if he changes his mind, and I'm going to try to facilitate whatever argument I can to explain to him he's wrong, to actually change his mind, not to virtue signal and grandstand like I'm so pure and Rogan's so evil. Because at the end of the day, that would accomplish.
You notice this is the topic where he's the most animated. This topic, he was not at all animated during the first part of this, the foreign policy part. But this is what he gets animated about.
So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. And it kind of reminds me a lot of the way that our community and chat sometimes responds when we interview Glenn, right? Because obviously, like, sometimes we disagree with Glenn Greenwald with, him and some of his politics, and we, address them on our show when he comes on. But everybody just wants you to turn into like a piece of shit and a dick with everybody that you disagree with and just try and like castigate them and like tell them you hate them and that you think that they're like an evil person and all of these things. You're not allowed to do.
Yeah, I must agree with Zach. They do think that. Like when Ryan got on here, now this is before we confirmed that he was, in my mind, that he was what he is, what I confirm now. Before we figured out, like when we were still kind of wasn't sure about his story about the other employees, rail employees, but we didn't come on here and rip them apart. We said what we had to say, and then that was it. So there is a little bit of that happens where the audience wants you to like almost have like a Jerry Springer like style fight or debate. So
just like disagree. So yeah, I completely agree with your response.
Yeah, I totally agree too, Kyle. And I think that your approach has actually been spot on for the reasons that you laid out, which is that if you did come out here with aggression directed towards Joe Rogan and like anger and said, you're stupid and this is terrible, then he wouldn't listen to you. I mean, that's the #1 way to make someone just shut off and stop receiving your criticism, if you piss them off. So the fact that you're able to still kind of walk that line and say, look, I am a fan of Joe Rogan. I do like Joe Rogan, but these are the reasons why you're wrong. That only increases the, chance that he's actually going to listen and take what you said into consideration going forward, which is the ultimate goal. So, I mean, I totally agree with your approach. And I also totally agree that it's absolutely fine to have friends of the show who you don't agree with 100% of the time, and yeah, you give them credit where it's due, and then when you disagree, you voice the criticism in a civil way. I think that's the right approach.
Yeah, and that video was also geared towards anybody who might be a viewer of Joe who is DeSantis curious. I wanted to lay out in as unemotional a way as why DeSantis blows. And I think I succeeded in doing that. I mean, how many links did I show in that thing? Here's a bad thing DeSantis did. Here's another bad thing DeSantis did. Here's the thing DeSantis did that's bad, even by the ideology that you espouse. You know what I'm saying? Like showing all those things about how he's anti-free speech. That's really important because a lot of people listening to Joe Rogan are massively pro-free speech. So it's like, okay, look here, you say you care about free speech. He doesn't care about it. He's against it. And so if you lay it out in as unemotional and as clear a way as possible, it's about changing Joe's mind, changing anybody's mind who's DeSantis curious, while also trying to say to, my own base of fans who likes me and who's already on the left, look, I'm going to represent our position in a very clear way. But again, I get it. Some people get upset that like, hey, you're not yelling, you're not screaming. Yes, I'm more likely to yell and scream about something if, number one, it's super egregious, and number two, I don't really know the person, or I view them as like an avatar of power and elitism and corruption. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, I'm more likely to yell if it's like a politician, you know what I'm saying, or some CEO, somebody I definitely don't know. I'm more likely to yell in that situation than I am if it's somebody who I know means well, but who is genuinely wrong about something. So, I don't know. I would say sometimes the correct response, depending on the facts in question, are to calmly explain in as clear a way as possible. And sometimes, depending on the heat of the moment, et cetera, maybe the answer is to raise your voice a little bit. But it all depends on the context. It all depends on who you're dealing with. And suffice to say, I think this video with Joe, anybody who goes and watches it cannot walk away saying, I didn't make a very ironclad case as to why Ron DeSantis should never be president. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, another question that a lot of people are wanting us to ask, and obviously this is the Vanguard, so it has to be done. I mentioned earlier that it seemed like this whole independent left YouTube space used to be a lot more united, and that's definitely true. I've been watching you guys since like 2015, 2016, and I still remember back in the good old day, when Jimmy Dore was on TYT and everyone was happy and getting along and all that stuff. And I'm just wondering, is there any possibility, because some people are wondering, is there any possibility that you and Jimmy or anyone else could potentially bury the hatchet at some point and maybe reunite behind whether it's a candidate or just a movement in general, a force the vote style thing? The next time something like that happens, they could potentially unite lefty commentators. Are you opposed to kind of burying the hatchet and letting the past kind of die in favor of reuniting behind something in common?
I have absolutely nothing against Jimmy Dore. I have absolutely nothing against the Young Turks. I have absolutely nothing against any sort of faction on the left. I have disagreements with them, and we can have the conversations about the disagreements. But in terms of like, am I going to stand on principle if there's some area where we agree? Like, I will not work with you because other things. No, that's ridiculous. That's childish. We're adults, and I think that's the same mindset that I took to when I got dragged into the TYT Jimmy Dore feud. I took that approach, but everybody at the time, and I mean everybody, gave me shit for it. Whether it was my audience, whether it was the Young Turks themselves, whether it was Jimmy Dore himself, because I didn't want to even get involved. Everybody remembers how hard I was trying to stay out of that shit. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And so then I get dragged in, and I give my take on it, and people didn't like what I said because a lot of people in my audience were OG TYT fans because they were the OG in the game, and a lot of people were Jimmy Dore fans because he has very passionate fans. And so I went out there and, basically said the exact things that would piss off both camps, making me less popular, making my subs flee too, right? So I did something on principle where I took the approach of, look, I'll agree where we agree, I'll disagree where we disagree, and that ended up getting me in trouble. You know what I'm saying? But that same mindset that made me do that is the same mindset that leads me to the conclusion of I got nothing against these people. Look, they're the ones they hate me. I don't hate them. They hate me. I have disagreements with them, but, they hate me. They all do. Like, Jank hates me. Anna hates me. Jimmy hates me. Oh,
this is news to me. This is something while watching this interview, I did not know that Jank and Kyle didn't get along. I didn't know that. Yeah. Didn't know that. So this is brand new information, which I learned when I watched this yesterday. Yeah. So brand new information in this video I found out. So let's continue.
Oh, abso-fucking-lutely. Are you kidding me? Did you guys see the stuff that was even publicly, the stuff that was going on? Never mind what they were doing privately. I was getting text messages from them where it was totally unhinged stuff, you know, and some of the stuff even.
Oh, so they got mad at them because of the force of the vote. Maybe that's what happened. I'm assuming that's what happened. Okay. There we go. Passion equals need. So there you go.
Spilled over publicly
or Jimmy.
Both of them. Jimmy, it was less private. It was more public. Cenk, it was the opposite. It was more private. I mean, I saw you guys did a thing where like, oh, I muted Anna Kasparian. They're all muted. Anna's muted. Cenk's muted. Jimmy's muted. Look, I'm a grown ass man. I don't have time for this shit. Like, I'm here to cover the news, talk about the things I find interesting, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
My mistake, to the extent I made any mistake in the first place, it was getting close enough to people in the business who felt a personal loyalty to them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, first of all, I don't know if you actually watched our video about you muting Anna, but just so you know, I defended that and said I also have some of our friends of the show muted on our Twitter, which sometimes gets revealed when we're looking at stuff.
Right. Yeah,
Twitter.
I mean,
I'm like, oh shit, oops, I didn't mean to show that. So yeah, that was just more of a fun kind of LOL.
Yeah.
But
I know you're not coming out against it, but even if you did, it's fine. It's no big deal. I mean, I've never blocked anybody in my history of being on Twitter, but I will mute the shit out of somebody if they're annoying. But also, I don't really read. Say my name. I'm sure he thinks of me, slit your throat, and never want to work with you again if you disagree with me on a certain.
Fucking crazy person when it came to like regulation and economics. But we were talking a lot during the George Floyd era, right? And I would passionately criticize Spike. I'm sure he would call me like a crazy socialist, right? But on these areas of agreement, like, I think we would all be perfectly willing to, like stand against police brutality with like libertarians or somebody that's, has far more disagreement with me and on an economic standpoint than somebody like Cenk Uygur or Anna Kasparian,
Yeah, no, and that's the exact point I was going to make too, which is, so then the thing that everybody has to try to do is balance those two competing values. You have to care deeply in solidarity and extend that olive branch. At the same time, also not backing off of your principles and your ideology and being a truth teller. You have to do both those things. And the way that you do it, I think the most effective way is to let everybody know, look, I got nothing against you. I got nothing against you whatsoever. If we disagree, fine, we disagree, and we can have that conversation. But ultimately, at the end of the day, am I angry at Cenk? You angry at Jimmy Dore when I lay my head down on my? Of course not. They're the ones who are angry at me. They don't like me because I dared to, say something that was very unpopular at the time. Which I think, by the way, over time, people now look back and they go, "Oh, Kyle was actually being pretty reasonable." Yeah,
it really
exactly.
was. Yeah.
And up is me and Crystal, solve them well, and I hope that guy Primo Radical talked to Jimmy and asked similar questions that I would to let everybody know. Look, I got nothing against you. I got nothing against you whatsoever. If we disagree, fine, we disagree, and we can have that conversation. But ultimately, at the end, but look, either way, at the end of the day, like I said, nothing against the Young Turks. I disagree with them plenty. By the way, we can talk about that if you want. Jimmy, disagree with them plenty. We can talk about that. I got nothing against any of them, and I wish all of them well. And I hope that both of them, them at their best moments, I hope that's them in perpetuity forever. Because when I've seen Cenk go on some glorious rants, old school Cenk Uygur was a force to be reckoned with, and he was a big inspiration to me. Jimmy Dore, there are some Jimmy Dore rants that are historic in how amazing they are.
They're so good.
They're so good. And so I want to see more of their good stuff, and I wish them the best, and I hope that they can do that in perpetuity.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they're not, but I really honestly hope that they're watching or they hear that you say that at some point, because it's always floored me how petty both sides were when it came to that thing. And not to just simp for you, Kyle, but I do think that you handled that in a remarkably...
That's exactly what you're doing, though. Like this entire interview, I agree. I don't know how many times. You can count probably 6 times during this entire interview. He says, I agree exactly what you're saying. Like, it's so clear that's what you're doing.
Kind of grown-up way, a reasonable way. You know, you did, like you said, you didn't want to get dragged in the first place, but once you were brought to that point, you were just honest about how you felt. And obviously, no one's perfect, but you just said what you believed, and the way that they both treated you, you know, sending you fucking text messages.
All I could do is say exactly how I feel.
It's funny too, because on Jimmy's side, he thinks you're fake left, and then TYT, they
left, right? You know, everything was broken apart post Bernie. You know,
who
where do we
gives
go
a
from
fuck?
here?
Here we
We
go.
still have no power, right? There's no power for
Right.
any of us.
So it really is a posturing, virtue signal-y type thing. Like,
yeah,
I'm the one true one. It's like, okay, even if I say okay to that, whoop-de-freaking do. Like, what next? Yeah, like you said, what next? What are we going to talk about?
Well,
what are we going to
that's
do?
actually
How are we
my-
going to
that
fix shit, etc.?
Yeah, that actually kind of leads well into my next question. You know, one of the things that we've talked about, you know, in passing throughout this entire show or alluded to a lot is just a you know, extreme factioning of the left, right? You know, everything was broken apart post Bernie. You know, 2016, I feel like there was a lot of unity. Slightly, yes, less unity in 2020, right? You had a little more division. Some people went the Tulsi route. Some people were like flirting with Andrew Yang. There was much less like, I hate Hillary and I'm with Bernie Sanders. You know, it was just a little more sporadic, but still Bernie was the clear favorite among all of the, you know, the authentic lefties, as we just said, we're not going to call anybody not fake lefties. But for me, it seemed like the clear choice. Gavin and I were, you know, still in the Bernie camp. Obviously, you know, you were Captain Bernie, bro. So, you know, we were all riding hard for Bernie Sanders. And then after that bottom fell out, everybody was just lost, right? Because, you know, now you have Joe Biden and he's, you know, doing an absolute terrible job governing, which, you know, ushers in a ton of right-wing energy and, you know, this idea that, you know, right-wing populism is actually the solution, even though we've pointed out 10 million ways on our show that right-wing populism doesn't exist.
Does not
Show me a
exist.
right-wing
Yeah,
candidate
I
that's not
agree on
taking
that
fucking
one.
oil from big oil and all that fucking shit, right? So, you know, but even still, that's become like kind of like a tantalizing, like alluring thing, right? You know, for obvious reasons, people are getting sympathetic to Ron DeSantis now, as you pointed out, obvious tool of the establishment, you know, et cetera. So now there's way less unity on the left. And, you know, you've pointed out that, you know, you're interested in Marianne Williams' candidacy for president, perhaps to challenge Joe Biden in the primary.
They've been pushing Marianne Williamson for a long time. They've been trying to squeeze Marianne Williamson in for a while. And that's just not gonna. That's just a terrible idea.
You know, I guess what do you expect to see out of that? You know, how do you expect the left to kind of, you know, regroup? I imagine, or I'm guessing. Like, do you think that they're going to get behind Marianne in like a Bernie Sanders style? Do you imagine this as more of like a protest vote? Do you think if it is going to be a protest vote, that there would be merit to using somebody with the name recognition of Marianne Williamson to get to, you know, 5% on a third party? I know you've you know, voiced an opposition to that in the past, though. I just, you know, imagine if Joe Biden decides to run again, you know, what other options does the left have, really? And then, you know, as a little bit of a, you know, caveat to that, you know, Marianne Williamson's a super, super lovely person, and I, you know, my political disagreements with her, you know, aside, she was extremely lovely with us when we chatted and all that. I'm wondering if you think that it might be hard for her to tap into that wide spanning, you know, voting population that Bernie was able to tap in, all the people that.
This is a great question. Will Marianne Williamson, if she runs, because obviously this has been the plan for this whole time, for her to run. They kind of teased it months ago. They were asking a question, and I think there was their feelers. They were doing that to feel and see, get a sense of what people would say. And they bring it up in here and there and here and there. They keep bringing it up. And now she has an exploratory committee, which means she's running. Which I believe all of these people knew already.
You know, would listen to Sam Cedar, to like Shoe on Head, to like, you know, not to.
Of course, Marianne Williamson cannot cobble together the same coalition Bernie had. Bernie can't cobble together the same coalition Bernie had.
categorize everybody by the YouTubers audience that they would fucking get into, but people in Oklahoma, Latinos in Texas, people in New York City that were going to NYU, all these people got behind Bernie Sanders. Do you think that somebody like Marianne Williamson will be able to have that broad appeal, particularly when they start to dredge up and, slander her? Bring up a lot of the more unsavory elements of her, like 90s, mysticism, essentially telling, people with AIDS that, sickness is an illusion and that they should, all these kind of things that the media is going to dredge up. Do you think she'll be able to be as successful as Bernie? Like, I'm just wondering what you envision here.
Yeah, so the reason why I was so hot on Marianne running this time around is that I actually think she has a similar appeal as Bernie, plus an aspect that Bernie was lacking. Look, Bernie is a man after my own heart. He's similar to me in the sense that he's just very straightforward and we have a problem. Let's fix the problem. What's the problem? Let's do that. And there's something about that pierced through. And he had his era. He had his runs. I mean, in 2016, I think he basically won it. WikiLeaks showed the finger on the scale. It's 2020. He kind of let me down even more, but with his inability at the end to close it out, which is really the biggest red flag to me. Marianne Williamson has a similar appeal as Bernie in terms of the policies, but she has that extra level of, because of that whole like mysticism thing, she tries to get more to the root and explain to people that, because now we have to do this. Before we didn't have to do this. Now we have to do this. We need to explain to people that a better world is actually possible. Like we need to, now there's a whole new wall that's up for young people, for lefties, for working people of like, well, now I'm totally nihilistic. I'm such a doomer and I don't think anything's even possible to get better. So you need a candidate who can first and foremost let that guard down and then get through with the message of the economic populism, etc. And I think that that's what Marianne Williamson brings to the table. Now,
so he's saying that Marianne Williamson can tear down the guard, and he's calling the guard that's up is the guard of people saying nothing's going to happen. This is not going to work. This electoral process. Is he saying she can tear that ideology down? Or is he saying we need somebody? Let's listen to that again and see. Maybe he said we need somebody who can do that.
I mean, in 2016, I think he basically won it. WikiLeaks showed the finger on the scale. It's 2020. He kind of let me down even more, but with his inability at the end to close it out, which is really the biggest red flag to me. Marianne Williamson has a similar appeal as Bernie in terms of the policies, but she has that extra level of, because of that whole like mysticism thing, she tries to get more to the root and explain to people that, because now we have to do this. Before we didn't have to do this. Now we have to do this. We need to explain to people that a better world is actually possible. Like we need to, now there's a whole new wall that's up for young people, for lefties, for working people of like, well, now I'm totally nihilistic. I'm such a doomer and I don't think anything's even possible to get better. So you need a candidate who can first and foremost let that guard down.
And yeah, I don't even think things can get better. I'm a nihilist. So you need a candidate that can break through that, and I don't understand why he.
And then get through with the message of the economic populism, etc. And I think that that's what Marianne Williamson brings to the table. Now, I hope she's the one. I think she might be the one. But it's other scenarios are possible too. It's possible. There's people are now. Who was it? Chapo, I think, was talking about J.B. Pritzker, like the fat billionaire. The fat billionaire who's actually sort of low-key based in some ways. Yeah. Like he's Fetterman, maybe not for 2024, but for 2028. We could have a conversation about Fetterman.
What do you think of Pritzker, Kyle?
Honestly, I don't know enough about him. I don't know enough about him to say for sure if I could co-sign him, But just the fact that somebody like Chapo, who I like, is Pritzker curious, makes me Pritzker curious, So, and remember, FDR was a traitor to his class. So he was an elite. He was from that background. And then basically welcomed their hatred and took them to task. And so it's possible Pritzker represents that, but it's also possible he's another fucking scam artist, neoliberal shill. Like, whatever.
Hard to trust a billionaire, somebody with billions of dollars.
Very true. There are red flags there for sure.
The one thing I would say about Pritzker real quick, just to break in, is that it doesn't even seem like, there's this whole meme of like socialists for Pritzker and stuff. It doesn't even really seem.
I don't know.
And if you contrast that to Biden, who hasn't done fucking Dickie McGee.
Just a billionaire.
Yeah, I don't know who that is, so I'm gonna go for it.
Really?
Yeah, that's part of the problem, right? Is that the bar is so goddamn low that people are like, if you could clear the lowest bar that anybody's ever set ever, then you know what? We'll consider it. Because now we're talking about just getting back rights that we had 5.5 minutes ago. It's like, well, hold on. What? We're rehashing the old battles now? We're going to have to go back and argue gay marriage again? We're going to have to go back and argue a right to contraception again? We're talking about a 10-year-old rape victim denied an abortion in Ohio. We're having this conversation now? When are we ever going to get to the conversation about, the higher minimum wage or universal health care, et cetera? I mean, look at this place that we're in right now. So, yeah, that is part of the problem. But to your question, to the original question, look, I do see some signs that the left is... Maybe they feel like they've been in the wilderness long enough and it's time to get a little more intelligent and a little more strategic. Just the fact, I know this is almost sad to admit, just the fact that almost everybody gave Crystal credit for destroying Bill Maher, that made me happy. When you have both Sam Cedar and Jimmy Dore talking about it and saying similar things, that progress. That's like, okay, look, there are real
clip, by the way.
It was. I think she did a phenomenal job. Funny enough, I think I've mentioned this, but behind the scenes, she wasn't sure that she did a good job. Afterwards, she was like, I don't know. There were 3 of them and 1 of me, or 2 of them and 1 of me.
Menial benefits that it did provide. But I don't give her credit, like you said. But I do remember he even threw a shot at you, though, because they were talking about the CARES Act, obviously being the greatest upward transfer of wealth. And he was like, yeah, clearly Crystal Ball understands this, but guys like Kyle Kulinski, they will defend the CARES Act and say, well, despite all of that shit, you had to vote for it anyway in order to get people the menial benefits that it did provide. But I don't really remember that being your commentary. Were you saying that people should vote for the CARES Act?
100% was not my commentary. I was incredibly critical of the CARES Act. And by the way, this is extra hilarious because this is the guy who, Crystal voted for Joe Biden. I did not vote for Joe Biden.
Right.
So I am more in alignment with his philosophy, but he takes the shot at me again because it's all.
He's talking about Jimmy Dore here. Crystal voted for Joe Biden. Now, I'm sure she said that, right? This was public news. It's not like Kyle dropped, breaking news about that. Now, I personally didn't necessarily hear about it now, but because I assumed. So it wasn't surprising to hear Kyle say this in this video, but Captain Save a Wife. But I assumed she did vote for him. All of her politics say that. So Crystal and Kyle Ball are awful sorry. CARES was the greatest upward transfer of wealth in human history, and then Mild went on to defend Democrats who voted for it when people criticize them. So maybe that's it. So maybe that's because I don't know the story that they're saying that you voted for it, but if he defended people who voted for it, maybe that's where the critique is coming from. Again, I don't know necessarily. Let's put up a couple more here. A lot of comments coming in. Yeah, Kyle is one of the founders of the Justice Democrat along with Cenk. Yes, he is. Mild Kulinski continues to rewrite the absolute most recent history. Let's continue.
Personal with him. It's all personal. It's got nothing to do with the policy of it. It's got nothing to do with the politics of it. Yeah. Look, when he decided I was it was no holds barred. He was out there liking the tweets about how, I was Me Tooing somebody who I'd never fucking talked to once in my life on an Instagram account that people swore was mine. But I was on record for years before saying, I don't even have a fucking Instagram. Humanist Report dug up the video of me and Corin talking about it years ago where I'm like, Instagram? I've never been on Instagram. There's a fake person on Instagram with my name or whatever pretending to be me. And we asked that person to change it to the unofficial Kyle Kulinski shit, right? Which they did. But
okay. Because I was starting to get the same feeling I had last time. I was like, oh my God, I can't take no more of this. And it's right about at the same mark as the last time. So I can't imagine that this could get any worse. But maybe we'll do a part 3. I'll watch like the next 10 minutes. But last time we stopped at around 23, 24 minutes or something like that. And now we're just below 50 minutes. So we did like another 20 or so odd minutes. And I just can't do any more of this conversation. It's just such a... Yeah, this conversation. I'm trying to not go there. Okay, so Kyle and just said Justice Democrats was an experiment that failed. Yes, but he still pushes it, which is weird. He still pushes the idea of voting for these people who would be Justice Democrats. So Kyle wants to be nuanced, telling it like it is, but he still agrees 90% of the time with Bernie, TYT, and Crystal. This is for show. Thank you for the comment. Yeah, I think I have to end it there. I can't listen to this person talk anymore. And we're gonna end with the final segment and quickly cover what's happening in Peru. It's a lot. It is a lot that's happening in Peru, and I'm specifically talking about. I think they're getting up to 500 or 50 people that the police have killed thus far in Peru. So the U.S.-backed coup regime that's in power. Let's go there. So all those videos I kept passing for the other segments were finally there to those videos. So this is some of the Peru, and this was the intro video. Pretty cool. I guess we can play it again. All right, so it's music put to actual protests, I believe. Now let's go to some of the other, not that one. It starts with, I think it's Ben. Is it Ben? Yeah. Starts with Ben. Okay, so I'll put it here and go to my notes. Yeah. So let's look at some of the footage of what's happening in Peru. So let's start here. And we're going to quickly kind of just show a couple of videos just to get you caught up with what's happening in Peru. So the latest in Peru. Huge, and you can see this, right? Yeah, I'll blow it up a little bit. And this is Ben Norton. Now, he covers a lot of the global south. And so this is a story he's been on a lot. Huge protests are going on in Peru against the U.S.-backed right-wing coup regime. So the regime that's in power right now, that's a U.S.-backed right-wing coup regime. Workers are holding a national strike. This video shows a glimpse of the coup regime's repression. The unelected U.S.-backed government has killed at least 54 protesters since the coup in December. So we're talking about a little over a month. And here is that video footage. So it looped back around, got plenty of those videos. So that's the first one. And you can see the repression by the police there. And let's go. I want to try to do these in a little bit of an order here. Okay, so yeah. Then we're going to go to this one here. This is from Kashashin News. I think that's how you say it. Peru. Police invade San Marcos University with armored vehicle and are making a large number of arbitrarily arrests of indigenous campesinos and students who've been participating in mobilization against the Dini Bolater regime, and that's the U.S.-backed coup regime that's in power right now. So they just went to the school and started arresting people. Look at this. Amazing. They just come to the school and got people laid out and arresting them. Let's go to some more here. And then here, Peruvian police broke into the campus where indigenous people from outside of the city have been housed during recent protests. Lawyers have been barred from entering. You can see the video there. That's the police. Wow. This is crazy what's happening in Peru. All right, so now let's go back up to one of the other videos I had up here, and that's this one. U.S.-backed coup regime is completely authoritarian. While killing 60 protesters, it is doing mass arrests of activists and students. Anyone who opposes the unelected regime is in danger of being thrown in prison like elected Castillo was. President-elect Castillo was. Wow. And then here is more video of the police from Peru authoritarian U.S.-backed coup regime entering a university campus and doing mass arrests of protesters and students. It's a short video. This neoliberalism ain't no joke here. And okay, so this is all right. So I did that. Oh, that was the same one I just went over. The one I meant to go with, sorry everybody, was after this one, and that's this one. Peru's U.S.-backed coup regime, which has killed 60 protesters since December, formally requested permission to allow foreign troops to enter the country. And this is the document. I don't speak Spanish, but this is just the proof. They formally asked for it. Just astonishing. Now let's continue. Here, the military from Peru's U.S.-backed coup regime violently stormed the University of San Marcos. Without a warrant, violating university autonomy, the military entered, attacked, and detained more than 200 students. It's like the worst year of the Fujimori dictatorship. And then you see it here, the video. Man. Just astonishing. Just astonishing. The next one, I think we got one more. Did I skip it? No, that was it. It's this way. Here we go. So here's the article. Let's click on it here. Let's click on it. Oh. And let's put it here in the screen. So this is geopoliticaleconomy.com, which is the new name of Multipolarista with Ben Norton. But Peru's natural gas resources. CIA-linked U.S. Ambassador meets with mining and energy ministers to talk investments. Coincidence. Peru has a large reserve of copper, gold, zinc, silver, lead, iron, and natural gas after a coup overthrew left-wing President Pedro Castillo. The U.S. ambassador, CIA veteran Lisa Kinna, met with mining and energy minister to discuss investments. Europe is important Peruvian, I think that's energy, to replace Russian energy. The United States ambassador in Peru, Lisa Kinna, is a CIA veteran who supported. Let's blow this up. Who supported a parliamentary coup in 2022 of December that overthrew the South American nation's democratically elected left-wing president Castillo. Castillo was subsequently imprisoned for 18 months without due process, setting off massive protests across Peru. The unelected government responded with extreme violence, killing approximately 50 protesters in just over a month. One day before the December 7th coup, the former CIA officer turned U.S. ambassador met with Peru's defense minister, who then told the country's powerful military to turn against President Castillo. Now, are we to believe she just retired from the CIA and became an ambassador? Is that what we're gonna believe today? Let me take this down too. Let's continue, and we're gonna actually look at a part of this video here. But since then, Kinna has been quite busy, regularly meeting with top officials in Peru's coup government, including unelected President Dina B and her ministry. On January 18th, the U.S. ambassador sat down with Peru's Minister of Energy and Mining, as well as its Vice Minister of Hydrocarbon and Vice Minister of Mining. And you can see other pictures here. And I guess I'll scroll. Oh, actually, it takes me to the actual pictures because I was on the site. Those are the pictures. Anyway, so let's now, where is the video? Let's go to that video. So we'll scroll up and click on the video here.
When these other statistics were published, the second largest mine.
It started there because I was watching it. But let's listen to about 3 or 4 minutes of this before we close out. It gives a little background more about what's happening here.
Hey everyone, I'm Ben Norton, and this is Geopolitical Economy Report. I've done a lot of reporting here about the coup in Peru in December 2022. It was a US-backed parliamentary coup against the democratically elected left-wing president, Pedro Castillo. Castillo was overthrown, and then he was imprisoned for 18 months without trial, without due process. There have been massive protests going on in the South American country since the coup, and in just over a month, the US-backed unelected coup regime has killed around 50 protesters. It's been extremely bloody. There have been huge protests going on. You know, basically large parts of the country have been in chaos for over a month, and the US government has strongly supported this coup. I will link in the description below an interview that I did with a Peruvian activist on the ground talking about the coup and the protests and all of that. What I'm going to focus on today are Peru's very strategic natural resources, the massive mineral reserves it has, and also the large gas reserves that it has, and U.S. interest and the interest that foreign multinational corporations have in exploiting these very plentiful natural resources in Peru. The U.S. ambassador in Peru is named Lisa Kinna, and she's a CIA veteran. And you know what they say about the CIA? There's no such thing as a former CIA agent. She, on paper, she worked for the CIA for 9 years. That information was disclosed by the U.S. State Department In the description below, I will link to a report I did that has all of the sources showing her involvement with the CIA. And I did another video and podcast about that. And immediately right before the coup, one day before the coup happened on December 7th. So on December 6th, the U.S. Ambassador Lisa Kenna met with Peru's defense minister. And the next day, the day of the congressional coup, he told the military to disobey the orders of the elected president, Pedro Castillo, and then they imprisoned him, launching this coup. The defense minister who met with the U.S. ambassador absurdly accused Pedro Castillo of the one trying to launch a coup. For people who are more interested in those details about his attempt to dissolve the Congress constitutionally and hold new elections and a constitutional referendum, check out the interview that I did in the description below with a Peruvian activist. We talk about all of those misleading claims. But I want to talk now about another meeting that the U.S. ambassador held with the coup regime. On January 18th,
this is what we covered, but it goes in more detail.
Lisa Kenna sat down with the Minister of Energy and Mines of Peru, as well as the Vice Minister of Hydrocarbons and the Vice Minister of Mines, to talk about ways to increase foreign corporate investment in Peru, to expand its extractive industries and develop the gas sector and mining. So this clearly is a significant factor behind U.S. Machiavellian meddling in Peru. Peru has become a major resource hub for foreign corporations. It is one of the world's largest producers of copper, along with Chile. And copper was a reason for the famous 1973 coup organized by the CIA against Chile's socialist president, Salvador Allende, who had nationalized the copper and wanted to prevent foreign corporations from exploiting Chile's copper. And also, in addition to the copper, Peru has very large reserves of gold and zinc and silver and lead and also iron. And I mentioned that Peru is one of Latin America's largest producers of gas. And in fact, in 2022, it's not a coincidence that Peru, its liquefied natural gas, LNG exports shifted from Asia to Europe. And Europe began to import the vast majority of Peru's liquefied natural gas. And why is that? Because Europe was boycotting Russian energy. So the Peru coup against the left-wing president Pedro Castillo happens in the middle of all this geopolitical intrigue, the fight for control of mineral reserves, of natural gas. And minerals are going to be increasingly important, especially as the world moves toward renewable energy, which obviously is important and necessary to fight climate change. But at the same time, we need to ask, where are those minerals going to come from to build the renewable energy technologies? They're going to come from Latin America.
Then that is correct. They're going to come from Latin America. Now, I want to go to something else here, and we may come back to this video, but oops, not that one. Let's go here. Oh, there it goes. Now, Gray Zone, because Gray Zone has somebody on the ground in Peru who's interviewing people, and listen to this guy speak and what he's speaking about, the neoliberalism and how it's connected to the United States. So I'll fast forward closer to, I believe he starts to talk at the 12-minute mark. So let's listen.
Self-convocation, self-summoning, that's what you have to understand. Look here, I'm going to show you with the camera the crowd of people who are here, spontaneously, with a self-convocation, self-summoning, that's what you have to understand. So I find myself in one of the main squares of Cusco. Yes, there are thousands, as you see it, thousands, and thousands here. You see, staying overnight, there are collaborators and the activists who stay 3, 4, or more days. Look how it is. You'll see. Look how they are there. Others who are arriving, as you will see, And they normally, well, we are here 2 hours, 3 hours every day.
Soy un ciudadano en sí, no soy periodista, no soy absolutamente nada, soy un ciudadano que sí también.
I'm a citizen myself. I'm not a journalist. I'm just a citizen. I have truly joined the protest because I am truly outraged that this government is repressing us with the power of the army, with the power of the police, with the power of neoliberalism, of capitalism, and with the help of the United States.
The power of neoliberalism, of capitalism, and with the help of the United States. Global South knows what's going on, and it's good to see just a regular person able to articulate it in that way. And let's continue with the video.
It was clear from before this crisis that something like this would happen. It is clear that they removed President Castillo for a reason, because he was going to make a very big political contract called La Patria Grande, and this contract does not benefit the United States at all.
Que este contrato Patria Grande pues no favorecía absolutamente nada a Estados Unidos.
The concept of Patria Grande, or Great Homeland, in the South American political imaginary refers to the idea of a united and independent South America, free from foreign influence and control. This idea has been present in the region's political discourse for centuries and has been championed by various leaders and political movements throughout history. It is often associated with the idea of Pan-American identity and the rejection of colonialism and imperialism. Precisely in this case, Condor y Cruz refers to South American leaders who are considering an ambitious rail project that will connect the region, creating new trade and investment opportunities. The project, which was led by Bolivian President Luis Alberto Arce and Peru's deposed President Pedro Castillo, aimed to bring Chile's new elected leader Gabriel Boric to the negotiating table. With Brazil former leader Jair Bolsonaro, who had denied the project, out of office now, and replaced by Lula da Silva, the project has now the potential to gain more support and bring significant changes to the region. The rail project, referred to as Patria Grande, could revolutionize the way South American countries interact and cooperate with each other, and bring further economic growth to the entire region, creating an enormous economic and trade market. According to the Bolivian Institute of Foreign Trade,
the project aims to build a high-speed railway of almost 4,000 kilometers between the Atlantic Santos and the Pacific Yoke, passing through Bolivian territory and with links to the Paraguay-Parana waterway and the railway networks of Argentina and Chile.
This is a perfect sample of the high stakes, depending on the political balance of the region. Such a project, further uniting South America, could indeed have many potential benefits for the region. Yet Bolsonaro denied it for many years, and now Boluarte could potentially challenge it. Economic integration, for example, could lead to increased trade and investment. Additionally, a united South America could potentially negotiate better terms for trade and investment with other countries and regions.
That Patria Grande was going to be unified with a great project. The trains from Tumbes to Piura, which is from border to border in Peru. Likewise, also from Cusco to what is Bolivia, Argentina, and Brazil. What happened? What is the problem that the United States had with this contract? And that is why they removed Castillo, the former president, because if this contract prospered, the United States would be left behind.
The United States will be left behind. And I think I'm going to end it there as far as this segment. It's good to hear on the ground voices from people in their own native language talk about this, but when it's translated, you hear that what they're saying is like, wow, he gets completely what's going on, which is very I guess, is heartwarming the right word? it's good to know that they understand what's happening down there. I think I'm at the 2-hour mark. I just passed it. When did I start? Yeah, a little bit after 2 hours. But it's almost dinner time here, eating a late dinner, so later dinner. So we're gonna be eating in a few minutes. So I will be getting off soon. We do have a bunch of videos premiering tomorrow, so make sure you get on our Substack so that you get links to those videos, and you can watch them whenever you want. Like, even if you don't watch them live, you have them in your email, so you can just go and watch them. We're at 392 likes. Can we get 8 more? Can we get to 400 before we get out of here? Let's see if one of these videos work. Maybe we can do a closeout video, because Twitter has been tripping on all of my videos because of what they say. I don't think these are glitches, to be honest. Not just mine, but I think they designate accounts. And we're seeing that through the Twitter files, what they can do to change things up. So let's see if it allows it to play the entire time. Let's see. Here's a Michael Pertinelli. We'll find out. I don't think it does, actually.
Nature of capitalism that it must expand. A no-growth capitalism, as some of our more naive ecologists have argued for, is a contradiction in terms. The reason you invest is to accumulate. And your accumulation of capital has no purpose or meaning unless you can mix it with labor to yet increase your wealth further. And of course, you use large sums of it for personal consumption and for political power and for control of your culture and for that wonderful, good, happy life that you so like. Now, that nature of expansion really affects the nature of, it's an important imperative, because it means capitalism also can never stay home. It goes abroad. If you ever saw the film Controlling Interest, there's a corporate president who says, those corporations that stayed regional in New England years ago and decided not to go national, we can't even remember their names. They died. We had to go national. And those of us who are now national know we have to go international. We have to invest abroad. So one of the laws of capitalist motion and development is this inexorable expansion. And that means expansion into an expropriation of the third world. A process that's been going on for about 400 years, perpetrated by the Portuguese, the Spaniards, the Dutch, the Belgians, the French, the English, and most recently, most successfully, most impressively, by the Americans. That is by the ruling classes of these countries, not by the ordinary people. The ordinary people simply paid the costs of empire. The ordinary people simply sent their sons off to die on the plains of India or in the jungles of the Congo or in Latin America, wherever else. But that expropriation of the third world that's been going on for 400 years brings us to another revelation, namely that the third world is not poor. You don't go to poor countries to make money. There are very few poor countries in this world. Most countries are rich. The Philippines are rich. Brazil is rich. Mexico is rich. Chile is rich.